Hey everyone, welcome to Bestie Book Review. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie, Jessica.
So it's that time again. It's time to have our bestie book tea where we talk about all the books that we have read this week. So grab your favorite beverage,
Water.
tea, and let's talk about all the books we read this week. Hey Mandy, how many books did you read this week?
I read 9. How about you?
I read 9. Yay, we were on the
Sweet.
same page. That makes it easy.
Yes,
So
yes,
did
it
you have
does.
a good reading week then?
I had an interesting reading week. I had some great reads and I had some not so great reads. So I was kind of like up and down quite a bit this week. How about you?
I had a really good reading week, but I reread. I did a reread of like 2 or 3 books. So 3 books. So that were 5 stars. So I knew it would be good. But I had several 5 stars this week. But I'm a little worried because I've had a couple weeks like that now. So I'm a little concerned about am I gonna have a really bad reading week. So I don't
Yeah.
know. So
Hopefully
tell me about your no, we got to do our reading challenge.
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
literally holding the book and I'm forgetting about it.
So our
So,
reading challenge said to read a book about a person with a disability.
okay. So we'll be talking about those books here in a minute, right?
You're much better at getting this on camera.
Sorry. I'm wider. Maybe that's why.
I love this. Eat, sleep, read.
That is cute. I
And
love
it's a
that.
magnet. Oh my gosh.
So cute. Now I have to find some place to go. My refrigerator is stainless steel. It doesn't take magnets.
Do you have a
Magnet
filing
board.
cabinet?
No, not in
Well,
my
then
house. That's the
you're
teacher in you.
well, I don't actually have a filing cabinet
I
either.
have a magnetic board in my office
Oh, there you go.
area that I used to hold all the kids' coloring stuff up with when they were little. But yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
So what are we gonna do this next week? What's the next one?
Oh, well, you did not want to read a graphic novel.
No.
So we were going to jump up here and find and read a book that is much longer than your usual reads.
Ooh, okay, good. I know what I'm gonna read then.
I do too.
Good.
Definitely. I
Okay.
think anything probably over 500 pages would qualify as a longer book than normal reads.
Yeah, that's what I was
I
thinking
mean,
too.
I've definitely read a few 800-page books, but that's not normal.
No, no. So
And you
okay.
just don't find books that are that long that often that are
Well,
worth.
because you lose interest really fast
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
it's not done
Definitely.
right. So sometimes it's just too much. So tell me about your first book.
We have a taboo read that we just put up. I will link the video below. But Jessica, you talked about a book on there called Wrong by Adelaide Forrest.
Uh-huh.
And so I found that that was actually part of a series of the Sex Club Purgatory. And so I went to read the series. Each book is different, has a different author. So I read the first one. It's called Heaven by Darcy Rose. And this follows Eve and Drew. And Eve and Drew are step siblings. Eve is like madly in love with Drew. And she really like she's just in love with him, but he pretty much kind of rejects her. And so she's like, well, fine. And so she decides that she's going to lose her virginity since it's not going to be by her stepbrother now at the Sex Club Purgatory. Why that would be your
I,
idea, I don't know, but that's what
I
this
have
book is about.
so many questions right now why anyone would choose that, but to
Yeah,
each his own.
definitely. So Eve goes there and she ends up in this room and she has like specifics about how this is going to work out. And Drew, who's never been there before, suddenly gets sent there for an important meeting. And it turns out he's sent there and ends up in the same room as her. And this is their story. It's a novella, so it's smutty, it's quick. I am not really into the whole sex club thing as a topic for a book. Like I just don't see the appeal or get it. So it was, I mean, it wasn't like a horrible read. You kind of know what you're getting into when you read something like that, but it definitely wasn't a favorite.
So I kind of agree with you on the whole sex club as a topic. As much as I'm into my dark stuff, I'm not as into like the BDSM aspect of books. It just doesn't do it for me. I mean,
Yeah.
tie her up and spank her, fine, but I just don't need you at a sex club. But that's okay. To each his own.
Well, it sort of feels immature. I mean, especially in this book where she's like really wants her stepbrother to be her first. And so she's like waiting for that. And when she realizes it may not happen, she just decides, well, fine, I'm going to go just lose my virginity at a sex club. It just, I don't know. It seems like kind of like a bratty response almost. I don't know. It
Yeah.
just didn't work for me, but it's mainly because I'm just not really into the whole sex club thing.
Right. And most young girls are not going to be like, wow, so I'm just going to go lose my virginity at a sex club. That's not typically.
Yeah, well, she knows about it because of her friend who has gone there before, and then I think her friend has another book in the series.
Probably. There was several books in the series.
I think there was like 7 or 8 or something.
Mhm.
And I'm
So,
not sure if it's done because there's a new author like that writes for it each time. So I don't know.
okay. All right.
All right, what'd you
Okay.
read?
So I read Falling from the Sky by Serena Bowen. So this was our what?
Oh, is this the one where he's a snowboarder and he breaks his legs?
No, he breaks his back.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's paralyzed. But yes, he is a snowboarder. So this one
Okay.
is what I read for my disability read for the week.
I feel like this might be on my TBR, but I could be totally wrong.
It should be. I think you would love this book. It is really good. It was
Okay.
a solid 4.5 for me stars. I really liked it, and the audio was really good. So
Okay.
this one is about Callie and Hank. So Callie is a doctor. She works like she's just a general emergency room type doctor. Nothing specific, but so she's a doctor. She is at the I think I don't know if it's the Olympic trials. It's just before the Olympics. Like they're a couple months out, and she goes to the snowboarding competition, and she meets Hank or Hazardous as they call him, and it's just a real quick, brief encounter, and then she watches him compete. And during his competition, he like the sun, the clouds come across the sun or something, and it blinds him, or vice versa, and he ends up getting hurt and falling, and he breaks his back. So then he becomes paraplegic, and so she gets called back into the hospital. She sees it happen, and she is there taking care of him. He's pretty out of it. He doesn't remember her, but on the day that he's awake and he's with it, he doesn't remember her from the competition. She doesn't say anything, and his parents are kind of freaking out about, we need to bring it. They're very wealthy, and they own a lot of the town and the hospital. They fund a lot of things at the hospital, and so they're like, we need to bring in this person and that specialist and this one. And she finally just looks at them and says, hey, back off of him. It's going to take over a year before we know if he'll ever walk again. It takes about a year after a spinal cord injury. And so then we actually fast forward a year. They haven't seen each other. In the meantime, Hank's fiance walks out on him, like she leaves, she can't handle it. And so he's having a really rough day, and he gets drunk, and he drinks a little too much, and he ends up back in the hospital for alcohol poisoning. And at this point in time, she is his doctor that day, and he immediately likes her. He does not remember her from before, but he wants to see more of her, and she keeps turning him down. And so his parents wanted him to try this new program. It's like a research type program where they decide they want to fund it at the hospital, and he will only do it if Callie is the head of this team. And it's for paraplegics. It's a new thing, and Sabrina Bowen goes into it quite a bit. And so he, kind of finagles it so she'll be there all the time. And then their relationship takes off from there. I really enjoyed the book because it really touched on a lot of things that, like, Mandy, you and I have read a book about a paraplegic, and it talked about the sex and whatever, but it didn't go into detail on what that would really look like. And in here, she actually sends him to a urologist. He talks about it and what that really looks like for him. They talk about the line of demarcation on the body where they lose their feeling, but yet he still has feeling, but that's extremely sensitive. Just things that you wouldn't know about. So I think Sarina Bowen, from my perspective, where I don't really know a lot about this, did quite a bit of research. And there was quite a bit of information here, but I really loved their story. This is the second in a series by her. I haven't read the first. I do want to go back and read the first, but yeah, I loved it. It was so good. And just to see like his progress and then make it work, it was just so good.
It does sound like one I would really like to watch.
I think you would. To read?
Yeah, sorry.
You can't watch it.
There was something on my screen, so I was thinking like, what is that? And then
yeah. No, I think you would really like it. It was really good. Yeah.
All right. So my next book was your taboo recommendation, Wrong by Adelaide Forrest. And I'm just going to tell you, Jessica, it was a 2. I did not like it. And I only gave it a 2 because I knew going in what it was supposed to be about, and I was hoping it would be better, and it wasn't. So I felt like shame on me, but I didn't like it. So let me tell you why. And I will link our taboo recommendation video below so you can go listen to Jessica rave about it. And then you can decide if you're a Mandy taboo reader or a Jessica taboo reader.
Because they're definitely different. We have different aspects of taboo here.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I read Wrong by Adelaide Forrest. It features Everly and Landon. Landon is Everly's dad's best friend. This is a novella, so it's a very quick read. He has this like rape fantasy. So he goes to the Purgatory Sex Club to get this carried out. And he describes that he wants a girl that looks just like Everly because he's had this kind of crush on her for a little bit and they've been very flirty, and Everly also has a crush on him. But because the 3 of them are kind of like family, like Landon has Everly's dad and that's kind of like his person. They run a business together and Everly's mom is not in the picture. So it's just been the 3 of them for a really long time. So they just haven't crossed that line. The book says that there is questionable consent. I'm going to just call it, I say it is straight up rape. And I just could not get around that because he has this rape fantasy and he accidentally kidnaps Everly because she is in the location with the flower. So he thinks that she has signed up for this. And he like actually questions, like, did she know it was going to be me that would be doing this? Like, what is going on? So he carries out the fantasy. Everly's actually a virgin. So this just, I mean, it goes horribly wrong. And so my intrigue was like, wow, how is he going to make this right? Because he has feelings for her. And I just never felt like he actually tried to make it right. I'm normally there for like an alpha possessive male. Like I'm here for that. But he was not an alpha possessive male over Everly. He was just all about me, 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 me. And so he was like possessive over her and trying to control her all based on his needs. And usually when you're reading like that alpha possessive male trope, the man is all about like, I have to protect her. I care about her. I want what's best for her. And this was just totally Uncle Landon being all about him. Even when he knew she was a virgin, he didn't really have any remorse or stop. It was still all about satisfying his needs throughout the entire book. And I wanted that situation to get rectified, and it never really did, in my opinion. So I just didn't care for it. I'm sorry.
So I don't think you've read any other Adelaide Forrest, though, have you?
I don't think so.
You might want to steer clear. It's all good. That's all I'm going to say. I love Adelaide Forrest. I love her writing. I love her alpha dickheads. Love it. Love it. That's where we differ on things. So it's all good. It's all good. Okay. So then my next book was The Master and the Marionette by Brandy Seeker. You have this on your TBR.
I do, yeah. But I keep teetering back and forth because I thought there was just 3 books, so I was like really excited to start reading it. And then you're like, no, there's more books coming. And I
Well,
hate reading like a series that has that cliffhanger without being able to immediately read the next book.
So her cliffhangers aren't horrendous. This one's bigger in this book. The first one in the first book isn't as bad, but I could have stopped reading with the first book and been like, okay, that's it. They're fine. But no, I didn't want to. And I know she had said something I saw on her Instagram the other day where she was like, I really contemplated whether or not to continue. And I was like, no, you don't get to stop. Don't stop. So, but she's like, I know that those who love it would kill me if I stopped. So anyhow, so this is, this is The Master and the Marionette. So this is the second book in this series. It starts with, what's the first one called? The Pawn and the Puppet. So this is the second book. And so this one, I can't really say a lot about this. It just kind of picks up literally like the second where the other one stops. And so the other one ends on a slight cliffhanger, and this just picks right up and keeps going. So this is about Skylena and Dessen. Dessen is also known as Patient 13. So he was in the psych ward, and she was like the person taking care of him, trying to get information out of him. He has DID, so that's, I can't remember what that stands for, something disorder. But it's basically multiple personality disorder, which is the layman's terms for it. But so this just kind of picks up right up where that left off. We do get to see a lot more of the world that they live in. It is a dystopian romance. There is a little bit more, you get to see more characters. They introduce some kind of fairy type characters in this book. So we get to see some more of that and some more of the magic, not necessarily magic, but the magic in the world that they live in. Hear some more stories and see it move along. There's, as dark as the first one was, this one's even darker, which is saying a lot. 5 stars though. It was worth it. So I'm ready to pick up the third book now. So yeah. These 2 had audio. The first 2 had audio. The third one doesn't have audio. The third one just came out in December. So now that my work schedule is not as crazy, I can sit down and read it. So.
All right. Sweet.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read that series.
It was good. It was really good.
All right, so my second book was Falling Embers by Catherine Cowles. It is number 2 in her Tattered and Torn series. These are standalones, but I am enjoying the series because you really kind of understand what's happening in this community by reading the first book, and then the following books all follow other people that are involved in what's happening. And so in the first book, we meet Shiloh, who was kidnapped as a child, and she was held for, I think it was about a week or something. And so when she's reunited with her family, obviously there's going to be some trauma, and mom really gets extremely overprotective of her other daughter, Hadley. And so Hadley grows up like not being able to go to like school activities, hang out with her friends, because her mom just views everything as dangerous. And Hadley is super frustrated. And so her brother's best friend, Calder, takes her out and teaches her how to mountain bike. And so through mountain biking and some other extreme sports, she really just kind of finds herself and feels free. And she does this kind of on the down low because anything she does, her mom like overly criticizes and is like, that's dangerous. Why would you put yourself at risk like that? And just is really quite mean to her. And so her and Calder kind of have what we can kind of assume as a desire for a relationship between the two of them, but they just don't act on it. And then we fast forward pretty quickly into the present, where Calder has twin daughters, and Hadley has been a part of their life since they were born. His ex, Jackie, is out of the picture at the moment. And it's just kind of their story of them finding themselves back to each other eventually, if that makes sense. There's lots of things going on. There's a lot of stuff to deal with how mom keeps treating Hadley, even though Hadley's an adult at this time. She just makes all these underhanded comments. And she actually kind of tries to sabotage Hadley's relationship with Calder because she feels like Hadley is too much of a risk taker to be around Calder and his girls. Like she's just, it's really intense. And Hadley's life becomes in danger for some various reasons as we're reading the story. So there's tons of stuff going on. There's the mystery of what else is happening, like who is threatening her life, like what's happening there. So there's just a lot going on as they're trying to find their way to each other. So I am just loving the series. I love the suspense, and I can't wait to read the next one.
And this one was rather long, right? Like the next one is going to be your long reads for this next week.
No, I don't think they're that long. I've been listening to them on Audible.
Oh, so this was the really long one that you read this week. That you'll talk about that later. No. Okay.
I will talk about
I just knew that you had a longer one.
Yes.
Because we discussed that. So, cool. So, and I want to read some more of her because Catherine Cowles, because she's going to be at Levin Seattle when we go in April.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I love her work.
Do I have a couple of books on a couple of her books on my TBR. I plan on doing it between now and April. So, the ever
should. Her new one, Whispers of You, just came out. It's a new series she's starting, so I'm excited to get that one.
Yeah, I think that's the one that I actually got this week, and I have it ready to go.
Yeah.
I saw a blurb about it, and it was really interesting. I don't remember what it was now, but yeah, I have it. So yay. Okay.
Yes. Read it.
So last year, one of the top books in 2022 that you saw everywhere was Haunting Adeline. And of course, if you've watched any of your videos, you know that I put those off because I don't want to be like everybody else. But I finally read it this week.
This is the book that was scaring you, right?
Yeah, it scared the crud out of me on several occasions. And I will tell you why. But
tell us.
So this is the Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. It is the first book in the Cat and Mouse duet. And so this is about, obviously, Adeline. Addie, she lives in the Seattle area. I think the town is fictional. It didn't stand out to me as someplace that I'd heard of. And living in Washington the majority of my life, we've heard of them. So I think it was more fictional. But her grandmother has just passed away and left her Parsons Manor. And so it's this big Gothic manor house that the family has always lived in. And so she's moving into Parsons Manor. Now, Adeline is an author. And so she goes to a book signing at a little bookstore in Seattle. And when she's there, she just happens to look up and she sees this guy with like two different colored eyes who's really staring at her. And like kind of like immediately there's attraction, but at the same time, it's a little creepy. And then all of a sudden, when she goes home over, the next few days, she notices there's a guy standing outside in the woods surrounding the manor, watching her and smoking a cigarette. And he's got like this dark hoodie pulled over his face and she can't see. And he's always there. She always feels like someone is watching her. And then things start to happen. So she gets herself a stalker because she'll find like roses in the house, like on the kitchen island next to an open or a whiskey bottle with a glass that someone has been drinking out of it. It's just her in the house. At the same time, she finds these old journals from her grandmother's mom, so her great grandma on her maternal side. And she the journals were written by grandma, they're signed by grandma, and they're from the 1940s. And grandma had herself a stalker. And grandma fell in love with her stalker. But grandma was murdered. And the murder has never been, it's still an open case. And so she starts to investigate that while still having a stalker. And so anyhow, my tea got caught in my throat. So this one was really good, but it started to creep me out because there's also like the elements of like you hear thumps in the house. And at one point she swears she sees her grandma's ghost. And like there's all these little creepy elements going on. And I was listening to this at work. Thank God I was not alone because it was getting later in the night because we were working late, and like our little alcove area that has a door that we keep all of our our packaging materials and stuff were in there, and I left the door cracked open, and I'm like, no, gotta turn this off. Like, I got, thank God somebody shut the door. You know, it was just creeping me out. So yes, this is the one that I would message you and be like, Mandy, I'm scared. So I scare easily though, but it was really good. It was worth the hype. There's not much more I can tell you because it's going to give it away, but it was worth the hype.
But it terrified you.
Well, yeah, but that's the best part. I mean, it didn't terrify me. I've been scared-er, you know. It's okay. I might have just been praying as I was reading it, just walking around. You know, it might have ruined being at work for me. Like, I was a little spooked the last few days at work, and I just, you know, but I was there till like midnight. So, you know, yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah, it's good. It was really good.
All right. My next book is called My Husband, My Stalker.
Yay!
It's a 4-star read. It's a novella by Jessa Kane, and it is part of her series on stalkers.
Why would it be?
Yes. So this follows Jolie, who was recently just kidnapped and held against her will. And she is speaking on TV, doing a quick little interview outside the courthouse about what happened. And Christopher, who is a hitman, sees her on the TV and is like instantly like in love with her, attracted to her, drawn to her. And he decides that he is going to find her. So he does. He finds her and he figures out a way to insert himself into her life while keeping a very close eye on her. They get married right away. And so that's where My Husband, My Stalker comes in. And he basically follows her around everywhere she goes. He's full-fledged stalking her, but he uses the information he learns to help her and to help her deal with her trauma and start to feel good about herself again, to where she can feel like productive and try and, you know, live her life again. So he's not like a really bad stalker. So it's a novella. Everything's going to happen really quickly. And basically what the breaking point in the story, I'm sorry if you can hear my donkey as my window's open and my donkey is
I can't hear.
Oh, you can't hear him? Okay. I need to go shut my window because now a plane is flying overhead.
I want to hear the donkey.
Sorry. So everything basically comes to a head in this book when she finds out that he doesn't actually sell insurance. So it's a fun read. I've read a few of Jessa Kane's novellas and I have enjoyed them. So, I mean, I think when you're reading a novella called My Husband, My Stalker, you kind of know what you're going to get.
I think so. She has like a whole series of that because I was looking at some of them. Isn't there one about a stepdad being the stalker?
I think so. And her best friend and like just different stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't want that. Okay. Well, then speaking of stalkers, I read the second half of the Cat and Mouse duet by H.D. Carlton. So this was Hunting Adeline. So obviously I can't say a lot about this because it's the second book in the duet and the first book ends on a cliffhanger. I will say, and I always forget to say this in the beginning, but oh my gosh, check your friggin' triggers because whoa, are there some in this book. There were times I had to like stop and just breathe for a minute. And I don't get very emotional in books. Like Mandy will tell you, I am cold-hearted when it comes to my books. I mean, I can cry at the drop of a hat over a commercial, but not over a book. So this one is just really hard to explain, but Adeline is basically paying the price for the life that our stalker leads. He's no longer stalking her. They have kind of a relationship at this point. She knows him. She's spent time with him, a little bit of time with him. And there's repercussions to his choices that she ends up paying the price for. And that is all that I can say. It's very, 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 very dark. Very dark.
Is it dark?
It is like middle of Alaska with no lights on, no northern lights, dark. It's really dark if you don't know.
All right.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my next book, Jessica, was Sticks and Stone by Grace McGinty. Jessica absolutely loves this book, and I will link her video where she talks about it for 10 minutes.
Look, it deserved the 10 minutes, okay? It was that good. Grace needs a little praise. She did an amazing job. Grace, if you ever watch this, I love you. You gotta come to one of the Love in Seattle or Love in Vegas, Grace, because I need you there. Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead. Go on.
Okay, so it was it was a 4-star read for me. I'm just not a huge fan of reverse harem books. I just don't get it. Like, I know that they're wildly popular. They're just not ones that I can really get into. But this was still a 4-star read, so that's saying a lot coming from me. So the quick version, and again, watch the video. I'll link it below if you want the version. But the quick version is that Nova's 24. Her parents have been killed in a car accident. And I think it's just a few weeks after that, some people show up at her door and they're basically like, hey, surprise, your dad had an affair and he has this like brand new baby. And the baby's mom died, and you're the only living relative we can find. And so she makes the choice to take in baby Huey.
And Huey.
So I think he's just about 6 weeks old when she learns that Huey's mom had a foster brother named River who is now going to contest her adopting Huey. And they go to court and she wins. But River shows up with his friends Rigby and Devin, who also knew Huey's mom. They were like Huey's uncles, and they supported her and really wanted to help her raise Huey. And so when they don't get anything out of the court hearing, they basically proposition her and be like, hey, we're rich guys. 2 of them, River and Rigby, are both hockey stars. And Devin is some like hotshot tech guy or something. And they live in a mansion together. And they're like, come live with us. We can give you everything that you need. We'll help you there. You know, instead of 1, there will be 4 of us. Like, we just really want what's best for Huey and we want to be in his life. Well, she's lost her family, like, and she's trying to all of a sudden raise this baby on her own. So she's like, okay, like what else can I do at this point? Like, I'm in way over my head type situation. So she goes to live with them. And this is when like, everyone is like, we're so attracted to her. And she's like, oh, I'm so attracted to all 3 of you. And things just start happening. And they basically decide to have a poly relationship. And with 2 of them being very famous hockey stars, things kind of unravel in their perfect little world quickly as other people find out about what's going on and judge them. And things just kind of get really messy. And they have to figure out how they're going to navigate all of that. So that's the story. As you know, if you like reverse harem like Jessica, you'll probably love this story. If you don't, you'll still like it. It was still a good story. It wasn't probably ever, I don't know that I'm ever going to find a reverse harem where I'm like, oh my God, this is my favorite book ever. And it's a 5-star read.
See, the thing with reverse harems for me, and I will read them once in a while, but they have to be done correctly. There's like only a handful of authors that I will read them from because I get confused. Like, the characters are not defined enough where I can picture each one of the guys in my head. There can't be more than 3 or 4. And I've read a couple by Grace McGinty where she had maybe 1 more, and I was able to keep them straight. But it has to be done a certain way.
More than 3 guys in the reverse harem.
Yeah, the more the merrier. I mean, more guys, more hockey sticks than holes, but that's okay.
It's just,
it is what it is. And I need to feel that connection between the main character and the guy. And you also need to have that camaraderie between the guys. Not that they all need to have a relationship, but they need to have a friendship of some kind. So it's hard to make that work. Only certain authors can do it. I
But
won't.
why wouldn't they want their own girl? Why are they happy sharing a girl? This is what I don't understand.
Mandy,
Yes.
it's fiction. I mean, I know polyamorous relationships happen. It's a thing. I don't fully understand that in real life. More power to them, but this is fiction and I got it. So anyhow, they do have that discussion in this book, and I do like that, where they sit down and go, okay, let's try a polyamorous relationship. And this is the first book I've seen that in. So I appreciated that, where they define it and what that means. Okay, so
what did you read?
The next book I read was more of a palate cleanser. It was a reread for me. It was a fun one. So it was When She Purrs by Ruby Dixon. Oh, Mandy. So this is an alien romance.
You give me crap about the names of my books, and you're reading a book called When She Purrs.
Look, alien romance is different, okay? You can do whatever you want with alien romance.
Sounds naughty.
No, he's kind of like a cat, a feline alien. He's even got a floofy tail that he combs for her. Okay, guys.
Your reading tropes are like, vroom, vroom, like all over the place.
Hey, I'll take it all. I actually won't take it all, but you know what I mean.
Okay.
There's some I won't.
When She Purrs.
When She Purrs by Ruby Dixon. Okay, so this was a reread for me. This is a 4-star. Ruby's always a 4-star for me. But this is about Kim. Kim had been abducted from Earth years ago and was basically a sex slave for this other alien. Then she was rescued, and instead of sending her back to Earth, she went to a different planet where she's a farmer. So this is a part of Ruby's, I think this is a part of her Rizdaverse Tales. Yes, this is a Rizdaverse tale. So she's got her little farm on this little planet, but her neighbor is she's kind of scared of her neighbor. He's very intimidating. She has a stalker at this point. She feels like she has a stalker. She's finding like dead animals on her porch. She's finding where there's like man juice on her door, things like that. And she's kind of freaked out. So she goes to this bounty hunter, and she's like, hey, I need a husband. I will pay you to find me a husband. And the bounty hunter is also alien, and she's pretty funny because this girl's human. But the bounty hunter's awfully funny because she's like, excuse me, you want me to do what? And she's like, I don't care how you get him, just get me a husband. She pays the bounty hunter. She leaves the little cantina they're in, and this guy comes up, and he's Paraxian, so he's got feline qualities. I think of like the old Beauty and the Beast from like the 80s, where the Beast was kind of cat-like. Anyhow, and he's like, that was my neighbor. What did she want? She's going to be my woman. So tell me. And the bounty hunter was like, oh, this is what she asked for. And he's like, me, I volunteer. I take me. I And so Kim goes to answer her door a day or so later, and there's a guy tied up in a big red bow with a sack over his head, and she's like, is this what because there's always that miscommunication between the aliens and the humans, and she brings him inside and realizes it's her neighbor, and she starts to freak out, like ties him up in a chair and everything. It's hilarious. But because he's a cat-like creature, think about your house cats or your farm cats. Like, they go and get little prizes for you and leave them on the doorstep. And they, male cats will spray to like mark their territory. And so that's all he was doing. He just wanted to get his woman. So it is a full-length book. This is not necessarily a novella. It's full-length. And they get into a lot more of it. But he volunteers as tribute to be her husband. So it's pretty funny. He, just didn't know how to court a human woman. So it was cute. God. It was a palate cleanser after reading such a dark book.
I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
So my next book is the book that you're referencing that was really long. It's called Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. Jessica, you probably wouldn't care for it because it's a YA. She's actually at the very start of the book, she's only 15 and he is 17.
Unless she's 15 and he's 35, I don't want to read it.
Oh my gosh, Jessica.
Okay, that's a really bad one. I was just thinking about, yeah, the off balance there.
Right. So this is book number 1 in Chloe Walsh's Boys of Tommen series. It's set in Ireland, so it was kind of fun to like hear all the different like Irish sayings that they have. And I learned a little bit about rugby. I don't know nearly enough to probably fully appreciate this story, but I did learn some. It's a dual point of view, which I absolutely love when we get to see how both characters are feeling. So this follows Shannon and Johnny. Shannon has been like horrifically bullied at her previous school. Pretty much like since she started school, like these mean girls like cut off her ponytail, they beat her up, like it was just horrible. And she finally reached this point where she just like had no will to go on, basically. Like this was just done for her. And so she finally is able to convince her mom to convince their dad to let her go to this private school. And we get hints that things at home are not good. This book is long, it is a slow burn, so it takes us a while to kind of figure out what exactly all is going on at home, but we definitely know that it is not a good, loving family at home. There's a lot of problems in this home. And we kind of start to realize that the bullying that Shannon is getting at school, it may not be the worst part of her life. And so on her first day at her new school, at this private school, she gets hit in the head by a rugby ball. And Johnny is like their star rugby player at this school, but he also does something in the academy where he's like going to go off and be like this hot shot rugby star. So like everybody in town knows who he is. He's like very famous and like, you know, I guess the epitome of the popular guy at school. And so when the ball hits her in the head, he runs over there and is just like floored that this has happened. And he's a little upset with her for being out on the pitch in the first place, but quickly realizes like that there's some sort of attraction here with this girl. So he takes her to the office and her mom eventually shows up, and her mom is convinced that she's already being bullied at this new school and she's lying because she's done that before to cover up for bullies. And so mom thinks that Johnny is just like this horrible guy, and she like freaks out, tells the principal that they need to be kept away from her, yells at Johnny, says like, do not go near my daughter type thing. So Johnny does try and stay away from her, but of course, like they like kind of have this little bit of attraction. So they start a friendship off and it kind of just goes from there. We get to like page 400 before like a lot really happens between them. And in a lot of books, I would be like, this is horribly boring, I'm done. But I never once felt bored reading this story. I absolutely love it. I'm actually reading the second book right now. And it is such a great story about the two of them. There's a time where Johnny ends up in the hospital and he's all drugged up, and it is the funniest thing. Like he's saying the craziest things to his mom and people, and then his best friend Gibbsy is there, and Gibbsy uses like a lot of that kind of jokingly against him later, and it's so funny. Like if you've ever read a book and you're like, wait a minute, like how did this conversation end? Like this was happening and now all of a sudden we've jumped to the next scene, and you're like, I missed that conversation. This book, like you don't feel like you're missing anything. Like the conversations are there that are happening. Like there's not really any like gaps of like, wait, they were just doing this and now they're here. How did that transition happen? That's not this book, because it is a longer slow burn, but it is so good. I am loving it.
Good. You know, that whole like being drugged up at the hospital thing is real, and people should not take advantage. Like my husband, when I had had surgery several years ago, and I was handing out my business card to all the nurses, and he let me. And I asked him, I was like, why did you let me do that? He's like, you were happy. You were having fun. And I'm like, that No, because the crazy lady handing out her business card to everybody. That but apparently I was having fun. So yeah, I am like living for the day when my kids get their wisdom teeth out. So I will have all the video evidence then. Such a great mom. Okay, so my next read was another reread. It was for the, what is it called? They had a live show for it, right? Because we read from Blood and Ash, and there was going to be a live show for it, but live show was too early in the day for those of us on the West Coast. So that's okay though. I had to reread it because Jennifer L. Armentrout has another book in the series coming out in the fall. So this is about Poppy, who is known as the Maiden, and she has to wear this veil. So it says she's been veiled from birth. So I don't know if that means that she was like born with the amniotic sac still intact, or what that meant, but they talked about how she was veiled from birth and whatever that means. So she lives with the Duke and Duchess, and the Queen has a hand in her life, but she's being raised by the Duke and Duchess. They are her guardians. And she has these abilities. I totally forgot about this until I did the reread. So she's kind of got these empathic abilities where she can sense people's feelings, but at the same time, if she holds their hand or touches them, she can project her own. So if there's somebody dying and they're in pain, she can hold their hand and think about happy things, and it takes their pain away as they are dying. So it's kind of a good thing. So she can also feel fear and that kind of stuff too. But so she is waiting for her ascension day, and we're not even sure what that is, but she's waiting for it. So she's going to ascend. And we know that for some of the royalty and stuff, when they had their ascension, which they refer to as going to the gods, it changes them. Like they only come out at night. There's, their skin's really pale. Their eyes are a certain color. Like there's things where you're going, yeah, that sounds interesting. I think I know what's going on. At the same time, she doesn't know what's going to happen to her when she has her ascension day. And so she has this guard that's around her at all times. The older guy, I'm going to set this down. It gets heavy. The older guard, I think his name was Victor. Starts with V. Victor, Vincent, Vicky. Oh, Vic something. He, has taught her how to fight. So she's 18. He's taught her how to fight so she can defend herself. There's like this wall around the city. There's these revenants on the other side of the wall that can attack, and it kills people and yada, yada, yada. They have these attacks. They talk about this red mist. There's all these mysterious things happening. One of her guards has a little incident. So they have to bring in a new guard. And when they do, they bring in this Hawk Flynn guy, and he's hot. Poppy has been attracted to him since he walked into her life, into her town. And he's like big and like this new up and coming star within the guards. And there's definite attraction between them. They had like a little meet cute at the beginning of the book. And things just kind of go from there. There's a lot of mystery. There's a lot of intrigue. Obviously, this is setting up a huge series that's not even complete yet. But it is like a 10-star read for me. It is so good. They talk about, there's the dissenters. There's these people that talk about the Dark One and him, changing the way things are doing. So there you have like this rebellion starting up. Yeah, so good. Can't really say much because it'll give things away. There's just a lot to unpack here.
Sounds good.
It's very good. Love this book. So good. Okay, what do you got?
Okay, my next read was a book called Easy by Tamara Weber. It was a 4-star read, and I read it because Goodreads had it marked as a stalker book in multiple places and possessive male, and I just did not find that with this book at all. So I kind of went in thinking I was reading one book, and it turned out to be very different. It was still a 4-star read, though. It was very much a slow burn. It focuses on a girl named Jacqueline who is in college, and her boyfriend of 3 years has just dumped her. He is in a frat, and like their whole social circle basically is around him. And she doesn't quite realize until after he's broken up with her that like pretty much her entire life revolved around him. And so now that he's gone, she's kind of feeling a little lost because her friend group is no longer wanting to be her friends anymore because they sided with Kennedy, her boyfriend. And so she's just feeling a little lost. And she goes with her roommate to a party a couple weeks after this breakup. And she just can't really handle it because he's there, he's dancing with other girls, and she's like, I'm just out. So she goes to leave. And when she's getting into her truck, a guy that she is acquaintances with grabs her and tries to rape her. And this is when Lucas steps in, like out of the shadows somewhere. And I think that's where they get the stalking part from, but it just didn't feel like a stalking part because he's just not stalking her like that. It's just he's just not okay. And so he pulls this guy off, beats the crap out of him, and is like tries to get her to call 911 and tries to talk her through like kind of what happened. And she doesn't want anything to do with calling 911. She just wants to go home and forget this ever happened. So he takes her back to her dorm and they kind of go their separate ways. But she ends up seeing him around campus more and that sort of thing. Again, not in a stalkerish way, like they have the same class together, that sort of thing. And so this just kind of becomes their story. He's got a lot of mystery around him that we just don't really know what's going on there. And she is just trying to find her way after realizing that she had picked this college because of Kennedy. Her friends were because of Kennedy. She just kind of feels a little lost. So she's trying to find her way. This does deal with rape, though, in this book throughout the book. So I definitely would check triggers on that. And it does have like really, really strong themes of girl power, if you will, like females uniting and that sort of thing. So I really enjoyed that aspect. It just didn't have the stalker vibes that it had been shelved under with Goodreads.
Well, the thing with the Goodreads shelves, though, too, is everybody uses that. It's not like Goodreads has made the list. Some other person made the list, and other people just, when you take the book, is like, you put it on your shelf as favorite read of 2021, then it's going to go onto a shelf with everybody else's favorite read of 2021. So like
135 people had tagged this as a stalker book.
It is not stalker.
It showed up like really high. Like, I mean, it was only like on the second page when I was looking through.
Define stalker. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
okay.
Not.
That's just, yeah. So my next read was Stolen by a Sinner by Michelle Hurd. This is the third book in her Sinners series. These books just keep getting better and better. Like, I liked the first one. The first one was a 4-star, but the last two have been 5 stars for me. So this is about Laura. Laura is a Polish immigrant. She came over from Poland when she was a baby with her mom, and they work for the Polish mafia dude, the head of the Polish mafia. He is a jerk. He is like the worst of the worst. He keeps all of his, the people who work for him in his home. He keeps all their names like scratched into a bullet in a little box on his desk. And at any point in time, he'll kill you. Like you don't get to leave. You don't get to wait. You don't get to go. What?
That is horrible.
I know. I said he was a dick. I mean, I said he was a dick, but he's a dick. It's horrible because they all live in fear. They can't have friendships with each other. The maids or whatever, they can't have friendships with each other. They can't leave. The only way you no longer work for him is if he kills you. And he beats Laura. Like if she makes a mistake, she can get hit. Or whipped or whatever. Like he is not a nice guy. So Laura's mom passed away when she was 12. And at that point, she stepped up and took over as a maid in the house. She only got to go to school for until she was 15 or 16, I think is what they said. And so she's working for this guy. He doesn't even pay them. They just get to live there. And so one day this guy decides that he wants to have seafood. And so she goes to, and he wanted like specific seafood, like a restaurant. And so she goes to the restaurant. She has less than 2 hours to go get it. And it's on the other side of the city. And so she goes, and it's in Seattle. It takes place in Seattle. So I've never heard of the restaurant, but that's okay. So anyhow, she goes to this restaurant to get his food. And on the way out, she collides with someone. And it's this guy in this, 3-piece suit and, you know, whatever. And he's just kind of like, who are you? Whatever. Here, take some money. Sorry. You know, he wouldn't even say sorry. He's just got his nose in the air. And so she's late getting home with food. And so then she gets whipped across her back, 20 lashings that night. Later that night, as she's like patching herself up, because nobody can help her patch herself up because they can't make these connections in these relationships, all the lights go out in the mansion and it is attacked. And so as she's trying to figure out what's going on, she gets shot. Now, the guy at the restaurant is actually the head of the Turkish mafia, and he's the one who attacks that night. He accidentally shoots her. I mean, he just sees someone come running out. He's going to shoot, right? And it's not like he actually cares that he shot her. He decides to take her home so he can get information out of her because the head of the Polish mafia has left. So, like, he gets away. So Gabriel takes Laura home. And at his house, he, you know, a doctor checks her out. She starts to get better. He's trying to get information out of her. She knows absolutely nothing, and he doesn't quite believe that. He's a little bit of a jerk in the beginning. But we start to see Laura as she's like, he decides to keep her and she can work for him. And we start to see her come out of her shell. She's been very abused. She's been very traumatized her whole life. And it takes a while for her to develop, you know, like normal relationships with those in the house. But he runs his household like a family, and that is what she desperately needs. And it just kind of goes from there. It was really good. It was 5 stars. I loved it. It was so good. I can't wait to read the next one. It's on my list. I'll do it later this month, but first 3 have audio. So good. I loved his grandma. And there's a lot of like Turkish sayings in here and stuff too. It was just very, very interesting. And I don't know if that's like whenever the mom or the grandma or whatever, or like something's bothering them, they just go Allah, Allah, Allah. And I'm like, is that what they say? Is that really a thing? So I don't know, but she explains it when it means and stuff too. But it was good. It was really good.
Okay, my next book was Sweet Talk by Cara Bastine. It was a 4-star listen for me. It is only from Audible, and it is free in the Audible library if you're a member. So it's only, I think, about 5 hours long if you listen to it at normal speed. I listen to it a little bit faster, and I know Jessica listens like at warp speed. So I think it only took me a couple hours to listen to it, but it was a really cute, fun listen. It's about Elliot and the woman, I'm going to call her JD because that's what Elliot calls her. They both have trouble sleeping, and it's late at night, and JD gets this voice text, and she is like, oh, I know Elliot. Like, she kind of has a crush on him. And then she quickly realizes Elliot was not trying to text her at like 2 a.m. He was meaning to text somebody else. And so they voice text back and forth and kind of just start this friendship through text messaging and late at night. But he's like, I don't know who you are. I'm so sorry. Like, I saved you in my phone under a whole bunch of random letters. I don't know what happened. So that's why he calls her JD. And she decides to turn this into a game where he tries to figure out who she is. And so she gives him points for like guesses and things like that. So this goes on for like several days where they talk to each other late at night because they both are, really struggling with sleeping at night. And I just loved the back and forth because it's Audible. So like you hear him like doing the text to her, the voice text, and then you hear her. So it kind of goes back and forth like a conversation. And it's just a lot of fun. They're very flirty with each other. As we're listening, we get to hear her side of things as well. So one thing that she lets us know, not him, but us, that if he knows who her brother is, there is no way he is going to want to have a relationship with her or continue their friendship. And so she is pretty nervous that he's eventually going to find out who she is and not want anything to do with her. So that is the story. It is really good, and it's a fun listen. So I recommend it.
Very interesting. So my next book was Dark Protector by Celia Aaron. I love Celia Aaron's books, but this one just didn't do it for me. This one was like a 3-star read. So this one is about Charlie, who owns a flower shop. And in the opening scene, we can see that she's like in her, like through her flower shop window, she's in her flower shop putting together an arrangement. And Conrad is sitting in his car watching her. And apparently he's been watching her for quite a while. This is something that he does. Conrad actually has a guy in his trunk. He's just waiting for him to die, apparently. He is a hired killer for the mafia. And like, he doesn't have just one mafia affiliation. He's like a hired killer by all of them. And because he's been, stalking her, we don't get to actually see the stalking. It all happens before the book starts. Some mafia guys that want to get back at him for something that happened, they take Charlie and hold her hostage. And so he comes, takes her, gets back at them, and takes her to his apartment. And then there's a hit put out on him and Charlie both, and then they go on the run because another hitman is called in. And so this just really didn't. I was looking for Stalker because Mandy and I are working on our My Moody Valentine Stalker videos that will be released soon. And it didn't. The stalking all happened pre-book, so that is not really a stalker romance. And then just they fall into bed with each other really fast. She doesn't try to fight it. She just goes. There was just a lot of like, no, this doesn't work for me. I mean, it was okay. I didn't DNF it. I still listened to it, but it just didn't hit those points that it should have hit. So,
That's always a disappointment, though, when it's an author that we love and then their book just doesn't live up to like the hype that we gave it in our heads.
I know she wrote it in 2017, so I don't know if it was one of her earlier books or what, but it just didn't do it. I mean, if she had elaborated on it, it could have been good. So, okay, so what's your last read?
Okay, my last read is called The Girl in the Front Row by Kelsey Kingsley. And this was my read for our reading challenge on Read a Book About a Person with a Disability. And actually, both of my characters in this book have a disability, which I didn't know going in. So this book is inspired by the author's own life. So Kelsey Kingsley has an author's note at the very beginning of this book that talks about her being legally blind / visually impaired with a rare eye condition. And so she cannot see color, but she can kind of see some shadows. She's extremely sensitive to light and she can see things. It seems like if it's pretty up close, but navigating through like a new space, she needs some help with. Finding somebody across a room she's going to need like help with that too. She is in love with this band and the lead singer is Dylan, and she's had like a crush on him since she was a teenager. The posters on her wall, all of that. And she got to go to his concert 4 years ago. And she feels like they had this like rare moment of connection where he looked right at her. And we fast forward 4 years later, he is going to be presenting an award at an awards show with her best friend, who is an actress. He has kind of not been heard from, though, for several years because he was in a car accident and lost part of his leg. And he kind of just, he spiraled a little bit. He didn't really know how to handle himself as this new person. He doesn't really want to wear his prosthetics, so he uses a wheelchair a lot. And just, I don't know. I never really got the feeling that he sat around feeling sorry for himself all the time, but he wasn't living his life either, if that makes sense. So he's at this award show. He wears his prosthetic, but he just feels like he's not good at wearing it. So he like slows everybody down and that sort of thing. And they run into each other at an awards like after party show like thing. And they end up hooking up. And from there is how their relationship starts. And this is like at the very beginning of the book that all of this happens. And so this story is about Lennon, who's 29. She's going to be 30. And she really just feels like she's not living her life. Like she wants a husband, she wants a house, she wants kids, but she's having a hard time finding a job because of her visual impairments. and she just can't really find her way in life. Like she needs her parents to drive her everywhere or Taryn, like just that sort of thing. And so she just doesn't have a lot of direction. And Dylan is kind of in the same place. Like he hasn't been able to write music and that sort of thing. And so this is just kind of their journey to finding love and finding themselves. I really loved this book. It's 4.5 stars. I hated Peter and I could have completely done without that storyline. But in hindsight, when I get to the end of the book, I felt like they each had to go down these journeys because they really needed to find themselves a little bit more before they could be comfortable and happy in a relationship. Does that make sense what I'm saying there?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I loved their journey. I really did.
That's basically what a book is about, right? The journey that it takes you on.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so for my last read, it was another reread for me. But I reread what is this one? This one's Hate. Hate by Tate James.
Are you this scared of having a bad read that you've resulted to reading books you've already read?
No, I was just so busy at the office that I needed to listen to books that I like. If I got distracted, I wasn't going to miss anything. Because I knew what was happening. Plus, you had read Sticks and Stone, and when I read this, was it Friday morning? We had talked about it for a minute, like you'd mentioned it on the way in. I was like, oh, I need a good reverse harem. But I'm not willing to just jump on any reverse harem. So Tate James can do reverse harems right. So that's why. So this is the first in her Madison Kate series. It's a very well-known, well-loved series. But this starts off with Madison Kate on Halloween. She's going to like an MMA fight. And so her and her bestie go to this fight. It's at the Big Top. So it's like this abandoned theme park with, like clown theme park type situation. And while they're there, she's there to see this fighter known as the Archer. And, she's just like, he is just, you can't see his face, but he's hot as all get out. So while they're there, a shooting breaks out, like someone gets shot, and then like all these fights break out. Their town is very split, like it's split down the middle. You have east and you have west, and there's gangs for both sides. And so a big fight breaks out because this is kind of in the middle of it. And she gets chased down. Her dad, I think it was the mayor. Her dad is like some big guy in the town. And so she gets chased down. She's running from these guys, bad guys. And then she runs into 3 good guys, or kind of good guys. We're not 100% sure. They rescue her. They, one of them, kisses her and, hides with her, and then, just kisses her. But they put a sweatshirt around her and stick her on the back of their motorcycles. And they're like, let's get out of here. And so a few minutes later, they get down the road and they pull over, and they're like, okay, your ride's coming. We just got called to go somewhere else. And like a minute later, cops pull up. And they ask if she had been there, and she was like, yes, I've been there. And they search her, and in the pocket of the hoodie is something that incriminates her, and it wasn't her hoodie. So, and they ask her what her name is, and she's like, Madison Kate. And they're like, that's not possible. We found Madison Kate's body back in Big Time. But she gets thrown in jail. They do realize that she is her after some confusion. And then she, instead of serving time, gets sent to Cambodia for a year to live with her aunt. And then she comes home. And when she comes home, this is where the book really starts, when, this second, third chapter, when she comes home, these 3 boys who supposedly rescued her but set her up are living in her house. And one is about to become her new stepbrother. And so it takes off from there. But that's all you need to know. They're college age when this happens. So yeah, so good. 5 stars. Don't you want to read it, man? Come on, reverse harem.
Oh, it sounds good, but I just can never wrap my head around the reverse harem part.
And the relationship is very slow. Like, this is a 4 or 5 book series. And the relationship building happens very slow. And she has a relationship with each one of them eventually, but they're all best friends, the guys. So it's just, it works. But there's only 3, which I appreciate, because too many and I get confused. True. So anyhow, but yeah, there's a lot of pranks in this book because she's trying to get back at them. So back and forth. Anyhow, so that is all that we have for you guys today. Thanks for sticking around. This was a rather long bestie book tea, but hopefully you found something that you want to read. Let us know in the comments below if any of these books sparked your interest or if you had a favorite read from this week.
Be sure to check back Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us.
And until then,
go read.